This is the June 2024 Historic Commission meeting. Call to order. July. Okay, I don't know what month it is. July 2024 Historic Commission meeting. Off to a great start. Okay, minutes. Anybody read them? Have changes?
No changes from me.
No changes for me.
I'm good. I'm hoping everyone did their jobs in it. This is the first time we've had assignments, so I don't know how we approach that, but there were jobs. There were jobs. I'm hoping everyone did them.
All right, somebody want to move to approve the minutes?
I will.
Mitch moved.
Second.
Tom second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
No new expenditures since last time we met. We'll have some financial things to talk about when we get to the SHPO ceremony.
Okey doke. Historic Resources Survey. Jeff.
So we have received the grant. We've got the $25,000. We have worked with Megan to work out the scope of the RFP. We have a sample RFP that we've been modifying to meet the criteria of all the homes from the 2007 survey through World War II, or pre-World War II. And the other part of the scope is going to be to take the 2007 historic survey and actually put it into PA share and get that data fleshed out, updated, and also any of the homes that we may have lost to demolition since the 2000 survey also accounted for in that process. Looking at the original sample quotes we got from the two respondents, CHRS, Econ. Shall I continue?
Okay.
Thank you. So with the two quotes we got from AECon and CHRS, they are the efforts that they put the $25,000 are roughly a match to what we're looking in the RFP. We do probably need to find one other respondent in the RFP so that we can at least get three. But we do have the two that were willing, and there was one that turned in February due to their schedule at the time. So we're hoping that perhaps that we're looking for a beginning in September, that other party would be willing to reply now to the RFP. So we're hoping to get the RFP out by July 31st if everything goes according to plan. The Jim, Joe, and Jim and Jeff, it's all the J's from this committee are all on this together. We're meeting on, I believe, on the 19th to finalize the RFP.
And I'm trying to get.
That's what I got. Oh, thank you, Helen. So basically, the plan is to put the RFP out in end of August, give a 30-day response period, and then hope to get the success of the RFP to begin the work in January, when all the leaves are off the trees, right time of year for the curbside survey, et cetera.
Is your laptop in the Zoom call?
It did, but I haven't joined the audio.
Yeah, you can turn it off.
Sure, no problem. But I did that because I want to share screen.
Which you can do.
Okay, I turned it off, I'm sorry.
That's what the feedback is.
Yeah, got it. Sorry, I thought if I didn't turn audio, it wouldn't mess it up. Apologies.
Well, there was. All right, so it starts in January. How long is the work going to take, do we anticipate?
We don't know yet because we still haven't put the RFP out to get the respondents to tell us how long they'll do it, but they've all been told they've got roughly $25,000 and a year to deliver the results. There are some timelines in the RFP that we're requesting, but we don't know if they're realistic or not. Megan has given us guidance. She believes they're realistic from other ones she's reviewed, but yeah. So the hope is to get it done within the calendar year of 2025.
Sorry, it's a whole world.
Yeah, it's a little more formal, obviously.
And we're being Great. Anything else on that?
That's all of it.
Super exciting. Awesome. All right. Slate Hill Cemetery. I guess we'll let Monica start.
First thing up is the Community Initiative Award presentation, which Tom is running, so I'll hand it to Tom.
Thank you, Monica. So you all know that the State Historic Preservation Office is presenting us a community initiative September 14th. When we found out about that, we started to think about how are we going to handle that. Are we just going to have them come and give us an award and everybody goes home, or should we try and turn it into something a little bit more special? So Monica and Mitch and I basically came up with 3 options. I think we all agreed that we should at least erect some sort of a tent so that we don't have to deal with any weather issues. I think it'll be a nice way to make it a little bit more formal type of ceremony. And that would be the minimum that week. That's the smallest option. Getting a tent would be about $400. Jeff, did you have a comment?
Just held my daughter's engagement party and bought a 10 by 20 tent, so we don't need to rent one. We can use the one I have.
Excellent, perfect.
We also already own a open fly that we use.
A pop-up tent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would be
it's
big
just
enough.
I think it's 8 by 8, something like that.
Yeah, so the other option, and actually Monica came up with this, was to basically have the ceremony and then an ice cream social. We can bring in a cart from downtown Yardley at Panos. They will provide the cart with 2 flavors of ice cream, which we can have for an hour at a cost of $500. If we want to extend it, it's at a cost of $100 an hour. And I think we probably, amongst us, have enough tables and chairs that we just bring some and set them up and just sort of make this an informal kind of a thing. So the total cost for that, if you include the tent, but we may not have to, would be around $900 to $1,000. The third option is a lot more extensive. This would be basically having the ceremony, having pictures taken and all that, and then a cocktail reception. And Mitch was going to look into the costs for that. Thank you, Mitch.
Everybody, please take a copy of this. What I did was, I kind of just reached out just to get an idea of what we're dealing with. We can always massage it if we decide to do this, look elsewhere. But what I did was I contacted McCaffrey's, being that I wanted to try to keep it local. I thought that's something that we'd all want to agree to. And I asked a young lady named Christine to just, considering anything that she can throw out at us that we can use for a cocktail hour, per se, not pass-arounds. These would be set-up tables with a bar. The bar would be serving champagne and soda, water, etc. And what you're looking at from McCaffrey's is just about everything that they could make for us. You can kind of pick and choose if you only want to spend X amount of money instead of everything, because everything comes out to almost $3,000. But we can pick and choose. They work very closely with us. They supply, as you can see, the napkins and the plasticware and so on. So this is pretty much inclusive, and again, we could just pick and choose whatever it is that we want to use from this. On the last page, I contacted Adams Rentals in Hamilton, Trenton, and these are for some of the basic items that I thought we would be needing to set up. Obviously a bar table, some chairs, tables. These are standard 8 by 30 inch. Pedestal tables, I figured people can stand there after they get their food, drinks, and they can stand on a couple pedestal tables and chat for a little bit without having to go too far from where we are. Linen or plastic tablecloths, depending on how fancy we want to get, and the delivery and pickup fees. Because we're doing it after 6, they double the pickup and delivery fee from $160 to $320. So if we did everything here and went with the linens, you're looking at $947 just for the tables, chairs, and et ceteras. So it could be nothing. It could be partial of what McCaffrey's has given us. We can go through it and pick out 5 or 6 items and see what that comes out to. Again, if we decide to go this way and we want to look at other places, I'll be glad to do a follow-up with others.
I guess maybe the place to start would be for us to talk about what we would consider a reasonable budget for this kind of a thing. We do have money in our budget or in our account, but is that the best way to spend our money? So does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I have many thoughts. I think we want to spend as little as possible. Lobster tails, I can just imagine that going by. Anyone. I know, I totally understand, Mitch. I mean, I think that it's not how I necessarily want to be spending the money. I like the idea of the ice cream thing better. It's casual. It is a little bit more on brand for us, I think. I also think, like, how many people are going to come, and, you know, I would imagine some politicos and stuff are going to come, but we all know, or generally my experience with politicos is they come, they take the picture, and then they leave. So to have this sort of a spread, to me, seems a little bit like overkill.
Yeah, and it's very risky too, you know, because we don't know how many people are going to take part in this. We could plan for 30 and have 40. We could plan for 40 and have 30. So I'm personally in favor of Monica's idea, which was the ice cream social. At the high end, it's going to be $1,000, and if we want, we can bring champagne or beer or whatever we want, wine on our own to enjoy with that.
Just to buy the Prosecco or...
Yeah, exactly. So, $1,000, $1,100, something like that, and I think that would go a long way.
Well, I think if Jeff has a tent, that takes it down in half, even if we add an extra hour of ice cream. I am a little reluctant to have people drinking and staggering around what is a very big trip hazard, but, you know.
Okay, that's something we can discuss. Jeff, how big did you say your tent again was? 10 by 20?
10 by 20. And should be able to handle relatively gusty winds, basically, as long as we, Victor helps me securing it to the ground with the pins.
Well, we can also do the toast with non-alcoholic champagne. I mean, if we want to have a little something to hold up to and say, hey, here's to us for what we've accomplished.
I mean, the idea was to do a little bit more than just, here's the award, take some pictures, go home. Not only just to recognize the efforts that this commission has done to achieve that award, but also to thank them and their spouses, for putting up with the time that we put into this. So.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing should be something that we keep in mind for the 2026 celebrations. And that makes a lot more sense if it's inside and we're using it for one of those, and concentrates sort of on family and inviting families in Yardley to come enjoy the success of the Historic Commission. And if you've never been to Slate Hill, come to Slate Hill, kind of advertise it that way.
So am I hearing a consensus on one of the three options?
Ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream.
Helado ice cream.
Okay.
And I would like to add, I don't know if you said it, Frank, our next door neighbor, has allowed us to set a tent up on his property, so we're not walking around eating ice cream on the graves.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for doing that.
Gelato, Italian, it's lovely.
All right, great. So I'll continue on with the planning of that then.
Are we doing the cemetery tour too? This good time to advertise for the cemetery tour? Yeah.
And also remember, this will be open to the public. So we don't know who's going to come from the public. It could be a handful of people. It could be, a dozen or so people. So I think this is a much more reasonable approach and budget for that.
I agree, and I like your idea about, appreciating us and our spouses and stuff, but, I don't know that my spouse has any more interest in spending time at the cemetery, except if they're talking about flowers with with Monica. Donna's the spouse. But I do think it's another effort to show off. I feel like the Facebook page is just getting a lot of engagement. I've been, really working hard on, putting up some engaging stuff. So we're really generating an interest, and I think this is an opportunity, like maybe a few of us can do a few tours or talk about a few grave sites. I mean, I'm happy to do that. I'm always happy to talk about dead people. So,
Yeah, depending on, I think Mitch did a calculation as to when sunset would be on 7:10 on September 14th. So Victor, we may want to get the lights set up before that, and maybe some torches too, to add to the atmosphere.
Tom, also a note that for the survey, we're required to do a public outreach and notification to tell people about what's going on. And if we're going to start it, say, January, September's probably a great time to start getting that process and announce that too.
Very good.
all right, ghost tour.
Ghost tour. Okay. I took the liberty of assigning a few roles and responsibilities. Some of you have spoken to, some of you I haven't. Nothing's set in stone, but if you would please take a packet on top and move it on. It's in order of this, our seating arrangement right now. So I'm not going to go, yours is on top, just take the top one and move. It should.
It's Cathy on top, it's just not Cathy.
Mitch isn't there. Okay, so I messed it up. Mitch is not Cathy. Did you get yours though? It's in there. Nope, okay. Yeah, it'll end up. Anyways, so I divvied up the roles and responsibilities.
I got it, Jeff.
No, read, it's highlighted. Your name is highlighted. Everyone's name's highlighted in their packet. So there's a lead for each role and then a couple of support depending on the roles, so that each person doesn't feel like they're on their own. And of course, no one is, because we're all working on this together. But this really is basically the setup we had last year. I'm just putting it on paper now instead of us figuring it out as we go, except for Jeff. Jeff's new. Well, exactly, but you were involved this early on. So I know you're doing a lot with the survey. So if you don't have time for this, that's okay, but I'm hoping this is minimal. And Tom as well. I know you weren't as involved last year, but I put you in a couple support roles, so hopefully that's okay. I tried to be as specific as possible. Really, marketing, which is Victor, printing, well, really, marketing, which is Victor, and sales, which is Jim, and Jim and I have spoken about that. Those are kind of our first that we need to focus on. I want you guys each to kind of set your schedule and your budget, like what you'd like. And based on that, Mitch, you're going to come up with a printing budget, and that'll kind of define our final budget. So you'll see down there at the bottom half, there's some key dates for you guys coming up. And they're all, everyone's dates affect other people, so really hoping we can stick to these dates that we have. But it's pretty much like last year. Krista says she's on board to help, I'm assuming, and hoping Ashley is as well. So we've got a lot. Helen got a new role as well this year. I think the title was lead historian. I'm hoping she can kind of be our grand Pumbaa at the event, and we have her in a central location so we can bring her into questions or people with additional discussion points or what have you, and kind of have you accessible to all the tours. So that's an idea. Anyways, more things we can discuss about. I don't want to take the whole evening. But so those are your roles. Please look through them, change them if you want. These are my ideas, but we don't have to it doesn't have to be, it's not written in stone. I have a preliminary budget, Tom, to show you, but again, I want it adjusted once Jim and Victor and Mitch have had their say in kind of what the plans are, because I know Jim has some new ideas for sales. Anyways, so I'll just hand this to you later. But basically, our budget, we didn't have a budget last year. What we spent last year, $1,763. I'm proposing, again, without their input, just over $2,000. We have a couple additions that we agreed on last year, like porta potties and that kind of thing. And our income last year was $5,500. And again, based on mostly Jim's goals and projections, I think we can likely make over $6,000 this year, $6,500. Which takes me to my next thing I wanted to show you guys is we had discussed, I'm going to share on this thing. Hold on one second. Allow to share screen. Okay, hold on. So this is temporary, this isn't live, but this is my goal We had talked last year about how it was hard to coordinate how many people in each tour, starting the tours on time. And honestly, we had a really good turnout with not a ton of lead time and a rain date change and the Eagles game. So I think this year we could have a lot of attendees if we market it appropriately, and which we're doing by getting ahead of it. So we talked about some way for people to reserve spaces in time slots. So here's a proposal on a site I've been playing with. We don't have to use this one, there's plenty of others, but basically, everywhere we post any sort of marketing, what have you, includes the link to get to here to get your tickets. And when you go to the tickets, you just choose your date, and then you choose which tour. And I have one starting every 20 minutes, which gives us 12 tours. And so say I want to go to the first one. This we kind of have to figure out, and I'm not sure what to do, because we've always done donation only for this. At the same time, I truly believe if people sign up and don't pay anything, they won't show up. So I want them to pay something to feel like they're on the line. So I have it at $5, but then I realized we're going to lose out on folks that gave us a nice donation at the door. So I included, I don't know if this is a good idea, but a different ticket price that's just like, if you're feeling generous. Now, of course, day of will also have donation options, but I don't know if it'll be as easy to get donations if they've already paid.
Just say free will offering for support of the cemetery.
On this?
Well, if you can, free will offering.
And like in addition, the problem is for any of these,
Or we just have a jar at the door.
yeah, we'll have a jar at the door for sure, but it's either free or we set a price. It's not, there's not really you have to pay something, but you choose what. So anyways, I don't know. Again, we can discuss this further, but this is kind of the plan that we have, and then people go.
It's too small for me to read. Would that be $5 a person or family?
A person,
Okay.
a ticket.
Yeah, maybe a family price or,
Oh, that's a good idea.
yeah, or a children price, adults, children.
children.
Or
That's-
seniors.
Or children are free, or seniors are free or something,
Yeah.
or lower price.
There were a lot of people just carrying children and then.
Yeah,
they
which,
weren't in
and that's the thing,
particular.
again, my goal with this setup isn't to bring in a bunch of money or make big ticket sales, but it's for us to manage the number of people and when they arrive, and also get them to arrive. Because again, if they don't pay anything, they have a 50% chance of not showing up.
So what about a reservation fee rather than a ticket fee? You can reserve a time slot for $10, but if you bring 15 people, you still got to pay $5 per person. You just get a credit for the 10 against that. So
Oh.
that way they're reserving the time slot, but they're not paying per person.
Oh,
Because also I think some people are like, oh, I want these 7 people to go, but I'm not sure they're all going to be able to make it. So maybe, yeah.
yeah, that's a good
we should
idea.
do it.
That's a good
If they-
idea.
If they're a no-show and they made a reservation fee, we just make the profit.
And that makes sense.
And then is there, sorry, Monica,
yeah.
is there a mechanism for people to just show up?
That's also the thing we talked about. That's why right now it has 15. I have 15 per session, and we had agreed 20. So I figured we can sell 15 in advance and then have room for about 5 walk-ins each time. And obviously, if it's 24 people, we'll make it happen or whatever. But I think that was the goal, to not jam-pack it on this. Hopefully have some walk-ins too. And this also, though, Tom, we have to figure out then where this money's going and how to set that up, because that's another thing. So we need to work with the township to do that, or do we just do it separately and funnel it into the township later? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my email to Joe. I wanted to pass this by him first, and he was all in favor of it. So I kind of dropped the ball after that. I need to get in touch with Allison
Okay.
and find out what the mechanism
Yeah.
is for getting money into our account from outside.
And if you'd include me on that, because what she says will help me determine which site to use and stuff, so. And I have one last thing. Oh, I'm trying with all of these roles and supports and dates in advance, because I know last time we met like every week or every 2 weeks, like we had a lot of meetings. And as much as I love you guys, I'm trying to keep it from that many meetings. So at this point, I know we don't have a commission meeting in August, right? We don't have one next month? Can we take August off?
We can schedule an additional meeting if
But I was just thinking, if we don't have a commission meeting that night, could we still meet to just talk ghost tour and updates on what everyone's done so far and everything? You know, it doesn't have to be a legit, it's a ghost tour working meeting.
Yeah, I guess if it's a subcommittee that's meeting on its own time.
Yeah, we're not-
It's not a public thing. I don't know how, Suzanne might know what that means, but pretty sure we can do that.
Yeah, it's just a working meeting. We're not just discussing any new policy or anything like that.
Yeah,
So it's really just scheduling if we all already kind of have the second Wednesday of the month blocked out. I'd love to keep that for you guys.
Wait, Suzanne's going to
Oh,
say something about.
welcome.
It's probably public meeting stuff.
Sure I am. Hi, all right, I'll just yell.
Grab one over here.
The sunshine laws require that if there's a quorum of you, so how many people are actually on the board, half of them plus one, you have to meet in public. And you could argue that, well, there's 6 of us meeting.
It's not working.
There it is.
You could try and argue, well, there were 6 of us, but we didn't deliberate. That doesn't make anyone feel warm and fuzzy. So either pare down or do it at a meeting.
Well,
I know the joys of volunteering for your community.
fair enough. Well, then I would love to keep the August meeting and make the one agenda item ghost tour. Anyways, okay, so that's that for ghost tour, I believe. Any questions?
Yeah, just one for, and I credit where credit's due. I think that was Victor's idea last year, was that while concessions for food is great, we also could buy light-up sticks, little lanterns, stuff like that, that the parents would buy for the kids. We get it through Wayfair at 50 cents a piece and sell them for $5 a piece, whatever, as a way to generate some money. If everyone agrees with that, I'll take care of that as part of concessions.
Yeah. That's technically in there. Yes, so anyways, yes. If any ideas you have, if you want to say, this is what I think we should do, because that also affects budget if we want to invest in buying some stuff in advance. So I don't know, at the very least, I think we should be selling the books that the commission made a long time ago on historic properties. Like, we have things already we could be selling, plus some other ideas that Victor had. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we could probably produce a better quality book. Those books have been, I think, Xeroxed so many times that, I mean, maybe not for this year. I'm just telling you, everybody loves my I Break for Cemeteries t-shirt.
I know, yes.
Come on, Cathy, they're historic books. They should look historic.
Monica, I see Keystone's on here. I don't see QR codes on here, so would you like to do an update on that also?
Sure, I'm finally getting to work that you've been asking me to do for months on the QR codes. The first 5 are pretty much finished, save for a couple of updated photos I need to grab. So you guys probably saw right before this meeting, I wrote to the web developer just to see if he's ready to receive or if we need to actually talk through it again, because it's been a while. So I'll stay on top of him, and I'm continuing to work on the next 10 so that they're ready to go, because the schedule is to have it up for the ghost store. Okay? Love it?
Cool. Keystone Preservation Grant?
Yep, that's me too. I'm meeting with Jim tomorrow, Friday, hopefully, Majewski, to learn about the triple bid process, understand, because I want to get that started, because we can't start work until we have the fully executed contract, which is until September sometime. So I'm hoping to do the RFP and the triple bid process now, so that because our goal is to do the segregated side this fall. So, which means we really need to get cracking come September on the actual work.
I think he's out of the office this week.
He emailed me, he said Friday, but I haven't gotten a time yet.
Facebook says he's at a wedding out there.
Maybe we'll Zoom, I don't know, we'll see.
Facebook says he's in Sonoma.
Maybe I'll have to go out there. But that leads me to a minor project. If we are starting on the segregated side like we wanted to, we need a map.
What do we need?
A map
Of the cemetery.
of the segregated side.
I have Christopher's small one that he drew. I think I gave it to Jim, though, so he probably has that.
We have that, but it's, I've been creating a new map because
great.
that one is, I mean, his is to scale and mine is not. This is why we need Victor.
Well, he
but-
did that as an Eagle project
Yeah.
back in 1980.
Right, no,
But it's changed a good
nothing
amount since then,
against
right?
that, but there are many, 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 many missing people. So, yeah, I mean, I think a map, I mean, I'm finding places in, yeah, so, okay.
And to work with the Masons, we need that. We need a map and we need an inventory. Hold on one second, Helen. We need an inventory of every single headstone, which on the segregated side, honestly, isn't
Yeah,
that much.
there aren't a lot. And Jim told me that he actually did get the whole back end of that cleaned out, so that they actually measured it and took sightings for what parts are in the weeds at the back of the segregated section, behind Hill's cemetery, stone. And there actually is more space in there, and there might be stuff in there. So that all has to be cleaned out as well.
Okay. Who's Jim?
Jim Majewski.
Oh, Majewski. Got it. Sorry. So yeah, Victor, if you can help with that, I would love your help with that.
I'll just have to figure out the most efficient way of actually, at least getting started on having the accurate measurements and start going from there of actually plotting everything out. Might be able to at least try to use some of all the previous stuff and see if I can actually import that and start off of that sort of thing
Yeah.
and just overlay that over time.
After the meeting, can we take 5 minutes and just look at the 1926 map? And I'll show you, Derek helped us understand some of the numbers and how they're measurements. So maybe we can follow that process. I'm sure it's standard surveying. I just am learning this as I go. But it might be helpful to understand that, but.
And I've, when I'm working on that's not to scale, I've been putting the names on it and stuff, so at least that can make it a little easier for you, because everything is in different places.
And figuring out where the row is really hard in that section, because it's like.
There's no rows anymore.
It's like the Palmer Cemetery in Philadelphia that they just probed, and if they didn't hit anything, they just buried someone there.
Well, I also suspect a lot of people on the segregated side didn't have stones. Their stones were maybe of a lesser quality because there's just a lot of missing.
The map from the previous Lewis Leadham indicated that there were wooden wickets with people's names painted on them. So that's something we
That's all
might want to
lies.
consider. Shirley wants to go about. We know people are in there. We just don't know where they're buried. So I would think the gather place might be a good spot to start to find, who we know specifically is in there.
That's it, thank you.
Yeah, before we leave the cemetery, Monica and I have been cleaning headstones, and that means carrying a 5-gallon pail of cleaning solution, water, spray pumps for water, scrub brushes, gloves, those kinds of things. And in addition, there are a number of headstones which are lying flat on the ground, and the longer they lay on the ground, the longer the more they're going to deteriorate. And the problem is we have no place to put these materials. So Monica had suggested getting a box, one like you might have on your deck, that we could place in the cemetery, and then store at least the cleaning materials and whatever headstones maybe we can pick up and put in there, get them out of the weather until they can be fixed. I spoke to Joe. I think you went right to Jim, and Jim said, fine, so long as the Historic Commission approves it. So I'm here to ask if the Historic Commission would approve something like that. It's going to be about $200 for it.
I move we buy whatever thing, because last time I was there, Monica conveniently left everything in the cemetery and is now in my garage.
There used to be an old barrel in the corner
Yep.
of the second section.
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay, is that usable, that we could actually put a
It's
cover
a water
on it?
barrel,
No,
no.
that's for water.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, put a cover on it, and so that we don't get mosquitoes. I can put one of those tablets in there, kill the mosquitoes. But at least cover it so that
It's closed, it's
okay.
contained.
So can we get water out of it to
It's got a
use?
spigot on the bottom.
Okay.
of it. But
Let's clean it out and use it.
Well, I think it's very deep, like barrels, so I think if we're putting stones in there, we're gonna have a really hard
Oh,
time.
I wouldn't put stones in there.
No, so
I'm
we'd like
just
to get
saying-
this box, put it somewhere inconspicuous, make sure it blends in with nature. We don't want
Yeah,
anything
there's-
to look ugly in the cemetery.
This
We'll
big
get, we'll get
brown
a,
box.
you know,
Yes.
a resin, wood grain color.
Yes.
You'll never even see it,
Yep.
so. Okay,
Okay.
so moved.
I need a second to
A
my
second.
movement.
Who's making the motion?
I made the motion. You can't make the motion, it's your idea, right?
Yeah, you're chair. Mitch making the motion?
Somebody, yeah, just pick people. Okay, I made the motion.
I'll second.
All three of these people seconded.
Okay, seconded.
All right, in favor.
Aye.
All in favor?
Good. All right, we're out of the cemetery.
I'm never out of the cemetery. America 250, Helen and Mitch.
Nothing new to report at this point, right, Mitch?
Joe has been putting together some.
Yeah, Joe was working on it.
About the history here in Lower Makefield, pretty detailed stuff, as a matter of fact. And so I think if you have those emails and you get a chance to take another look at them, I think there's a lot there that we can extract and use as time goes on. The other thing is, there's the PA 250, which is the state's program for the 250, which I sent some information to Joe. And he already started to do some research and talking to the people and getting us involved in the PA 250, which would be great because they've got programs that they're running and programs that they'd like to see what we want to do and work with us as well. So that's really what we got at this point. Again, it was very detailed information, and I think that came from our liaison. I don't know if
Which information was that, Mitch?
it was just about a page and a half history of what went on here in Lower Makefield
During the revolution?
during the Revolution. And there was
Okay.
some specific names of parties who we thought maybe would be a better thing to do is to focus on those few people, or again, looking at the whole
Yeah,
picture.
Okay, I know I had given him something, but I wasn't sure what. We were also talking about those magazine articles for whatever it was, the Herald, or we were gathering information on that. I don't know if that's in the agenda or not. But we were going to do 4 articles for the local penny saver, whatever it is.
Right, yes.
What was
Yes, the
that?
articles.
Yeah, I think we had assignments. I'm not sure that
Well,
anybody's
I've
working on them.
I've done the one on the schools, so that's done.
Ah, that's great. Thank you, Helen, I forgot all about that.
And I'm working on the one for township overall. And somebody was doing,
I feel like I was volunteered for
Yeah,
something, but
you
I
know-
needed
I
more
knew you were.
clarification and didn't know what to do, so
What
then
was it?
just pretended it didn't exist.
yeah. All right, so Kathy's doing one, and I think Joe was doing the other, right?
Yes, if somebody could tell Cathy what Cathy needs to be doing.
Yeah, I will look at that.
I think it's in the minutes somewhere.
Yeah, but I know, I finished the schools because I had already previously done something about Pennsbury, and so then I just had to go back and look at the free schools and did all that, did the octagonal schoolhouse again. So we're all set for schools in Lower Makefield. But the other 3 articles, we have to get together. Okay.
You say this is working. There we go. So to the extent that Pennsylvania, you might have seen it on 295 already, or the new license plates, right? They have the Pennsylvania in an arch and the Liberty Bell at Freedom Ring. I have great ideas, but I don't actually have any creativity, if you can figure out how those meld together. It'd be nice as we think about Lower Makefield's role in the 250th, if we could mimic or adopt that branding to us. Because I think what you're really trying to focus on is, Washington didn't just pass by, I'm not saying he was here that day, but, we have a role and we have things to talk about for that time period.
Well, we think he actually stayed here for a couple days and then moved upriver to
House.
to Jericho Mountain. But, because there's a lot of evidence that there may have been soldiers camping along the river by what is now Makefield. So that makes it a really nice possibility of doing reenactment. But I like your idea of an arch and then putting sort of little vignettes and maybe making T-shirts and things like that for the sesqui,
Does
whatever
somebody
it
other
is.
than Monica have any talent developing logos?
Yeah, logo talent. We need a contest.
I'm happy to work on logos.
how-
You
or
sure?
how about
Because
a-
Logo's no big
you
deal.
take on a lot of stuff, so I
Well,
don't want
Monica, how
She's got
about
time on that one.
Typical, like, contest for the kids in the schools
I love
that you
that.
would
That's a great
think
idea.
about
Or
doing.
Fiverr.
That's actually more work than just doing one, but yes, I'd love to do that.
Just make it, Monica, just make it.
Suzanne,
Victor, sorry.
I can at least try something, like throw some ideas together and see what we can come up with.
yeah,
Did a good job on the sign.
yeah.
Yes, you did. All right, Victor,
Yay.
thank you.
As an aside, I think someone from the state was talking to Joe. They've been going back and forth, and somehow or another, they got a hold of our QR code idea and asked if we could do something along the lines of that kind of a thing for the 250. So if Helen, if there's a trail of Washington or somebody else that we want to lay out, or if there are specific historic sites that we want to bring attention to, we could post a QR code there and get that online.
That would be awesome. I'm still aiming for that Widener House dinner with Washington. That would be awesome.
I have questions, Suzanne. Maybe you can help me. I am so very confused with all of these emails and 250s. And maybe it's all the same. I'm so confused though. So I've heard PA 250, which was the stuff Mitch shared with us. I've heard America 250, which is what Joe shared, including that document that he put together that he shared with us, that was a talk of us supporting them with our local history. And I've also heard Bucks 250, I think, which is Bob Harvey, which you shared with us. And also, I know LMT has asked us to come up with ideas, and a lot of the ideas have been shared, which is great. I just don't understand what the different groups are, what we're doing for each different group, and who our priority needs to be, or do we just do as a group one thing, and anyone that asks, we can just give that to them? I'm lost.
I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of people coming out of the woodwork asking for our input here. And I think probably we get together and decide what we want to promote and what we don't. I know whatever it was that Joe put out, I was looking at it and I was thinking, that's not quite right. So, there are some things that we kind of have to decide as a group, I think, on what we're going to be promoting.
Yeah, I think how you answered your own question a
Yeah,
little bit,
that
Monica. I
you
think
did.
that's the way to do, like, pick
It is
something.
the first time I've said all that out loud, so
Yeah,
it was
and
therapeutic.
I don't disagree with you. I was like, okay, oh, look at this,
Right.
But, right, I mean, I remember 200. I remember my mother dragging us all over the
Yeah.
place, and I guess 250 is going to be a lot like 200. So a lot of different governmental entities want to make sure it's celebrated.
Right.
So I think we should pick how we think Lower Makefield, and when I say we, you, should pick what Lower Makefield was doing then, and make it as best as you can, and then shoot it up to
Yeah,
these
I
other
think
entities.
our first priority is to lower Makefield.
For sure, but then my question is, if we are, because this came out of our idea generating for the township, who's actually?
There's Joe.
There he is.
Speak
Oh,
of the
Joe,
Joe.
my
Joe's got an
questions, I
answer.
told you
Good. Oh, Joe, have an
were
answer.
coming. We were joining the middle of my PA 250 confusion. But, okay, so I see that we should just kind of decide what we want to do, but the production and payment of that, who's doing that? Because these things do cost money and take time, unless we do something super simple. And that's the thing, like, how do we decide what to do if we don't know how we make it?
If you're talking about big race event that goes through Lower Makefield to Upper Makefield, that's going to have to be coordinated.
Of course.
Between at least 3, possibly 4 townships and municipalities to do that kind of thing. And that's one of the big suggestions. That makes a lot of sense, to kind of trace where Washington passed through Lower Makefield, Upper Makefield, and then the crossing and coming back. There's a whole lot, I mean, we can do with.
Because that's the
with
thing,
that.
I think we have met and we have come up with ideas, and we have a lot of great ideas. Yeah, go ahead.
All myself.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a lot of great ideas, but I think we need to be realistic about capacity. Like, we're going to be putting Monica in home pretty soon if we don't take some stuff off. I think we need to feel like, it's great to have all of these ideas, but we need people to actually do the work. If you want to do QR codes and we don't do it with assets, because I think that's really what's hanging you up, if we want to just do a web page, like this is this place and this is why it's interesting and stuff, I'm happy to take on some of the research. But I think, I think we're getting into a lot of ideas that are big and probably more than many of us have capacity for. Joe, did you want to say something?
I think we're going to come together with a calendar at some point. Joe, are you texting?
Joe, do you hear us? Joe, do you hear us now?
No, he's, okay, I'm just,
He says he can't hear us.
yeah, I'm thinking that it possibly will become clearer as we get closer to it, when we have another year and a half.
But from who? Because all I know is just more people
Well,
coming
we're going to have
to
to
the
pick
table.
and choose.
Joe, you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay, good
Okay, very good.
success.
Okay, can we let Joe speak for a second?
Yep.
Why do you want me to speak? What should I say?
What are your thoughts on the whole, we're on the 250 on the agenda, we've gotten down to all of that, so I think what Monica and I are saying is that a lot of people are asking us to do things, and I think, Monica, tell me if I'm representing you incorrectly, we're a little worried about capacity, finances, and how it's all going to get done, and what is realistic.
I wouldn't do anything right now. They're just getting their ideas together. I think in some respects we're out ahead because we already have generated ideas. I do think, though, in the fall, we're going to need to think about what we want to do and the implications for its budget.
Okay, I guess my concern is just that everybody's like, oh, Historic Commission's going to do everything, and,
I know, I don't think that that's the case at all. I've talked to Dave about that a number of times, and I think everyone is still to the point where, yeah, that's 2 years away, right? Or maybe a year and a half now away. But we know that, you can't wait till the last minute, you have to do some prep work, but I think we have a couple of really solid ideas, but we'll need to start thinking about about how to budget for those. To me, I'm trying to figure out how we get involved or get integrated with what the county's doing, because America 250 is a national program, right? And then they have America 250 PA, which is a state, and each of the states has their own program, and then PA broke it down to the county level. So the people we're talking to, America PA, Bucks chapter, they're their local people. But as you can see from the email that I forwarded, they're just starting to form around and getting some ideas around this.
okay, well, I guess it's,
And I'm seeing it as the year itself, we can just divide within this township to, for instance, the campaign to build the octagonal schoolhouse happened early in the year. The schoolhouse was built by spring of 1776. So, it was already up. And then, so we could have a focus on that in the early part of the year. And then by the end of the year, that's where we come into more importance because of the crossing in 1776. So we'll be more in focus to the rest of Pennsylvania and to the rest of the area. At that point in time, that's where we plan most of our events will be, probably the fall of 2026. So we have some time, and just don't panic. We'll pick and choose what we can handle and what we can't,
We have time in terms of actually doing the work, but the budget is going to need to be done when we come back in the fall, right?
Yeah.
We're going to need to at that point, by the end of the year, have a budget in place, because anything that we're gonna want to do, the money's gonna need to be spent in 2025, so it's ready for 2026.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and I hear everybody keep saying that we have time, and I recognize that we have time, but I also know that things like the QR code project take more time than one might think that they might take.
Right.
All right.
If I may ask, and sorry for being late, but have you discussed the Slate Hill ceremony on September 14th?
We did. We're having an ice cream social.
Okay. And you have a start time you thought through?
Yep, all done, all good. Tom had a report.
I'm sorry, Joe, did you just say a start time?
Yeah, yeah.
No. So I wanted to ask you about that. You had sent us an email talking about some event that was going to be also happening on that day at Patterson Farm?
Right, yes. Implementation committee is trying to do an event too, yeah.
And so do we have a time frame on that?
No, but.
Okay. So we have to decide when that's going to be, because some of the same people will probably going to be at both events.
That's true, but I thought that it's our event, we should decide when we want to have it. So, I mean, is this something that you're thinking about having late afternoon, say 4 o'clock, or is this something that you're thinking about having evening around 6?
I vote 4 o'clock.
7 to 10.
Yeah, 4 or 5 o'clock. That was
Okay.
what I was
That's all
thinking.
need. That's all,
Okay.
That's good enough, yeah,
Great.
yeah. But the one other question then is, who's running that? Because by the time we meet again, it'll be like that, like we'll meet on Wednesday and it'll be that Saturday.
Yeah, I'm heading that up, Joe.
All right, good.
Mitch and I, actually.
Okay.
We did discuss maybe also having an August meeting, just because we need to be planning also for the ghost tour and for this, and Suzanne reminded us that, there's rules and we have to have public meetings. I think Monica's suggestion was August meeting, just ghost tour,
Yeah,
or?
just a working ghost tour meeting on that August for anyone that could join.
Right, we can have an August meeting. I mean, it's just traditionally we haven't, but we can have it.
Okay, so we're having an August meeting.
Can the gelato flavors be historic? Can you make them cute names?
Sure, it's a great idea. Sally will come up with something adorable.
So the next thing is the demolition ordinance, and since you're here, Joe?
So not much more to say than what I said, what I forwarded in the email. It was always our expectation that we would have a draft ordinance in September. The email basically gives you a little bit of insight into some of the complications around this. It's just not a matter of drafting a new ordinance, but it's also understanding the impact that ordinance has on existing ones and on the existing zoning. So what you saw in that email was an analysis they did about all the pieces of the existing, if you would, regulations that would be touched by this. So I still expect that we'll have a draft ordinance to review in September, and then we can give feedback and go from there before we present it to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Now, I have reached out to the Historical Architecture Review Board, the HARB. Jennifer Stark is now the chair of that, and I wanted her to know, A, that first of all, we're doing this, right? And so I sent her some background on that, and B, I wanted their feedback on the documentation requirements that should be in the ordinance, because they're architects and they understand what's useful and what's not useful. So I was invited to present at their August meeting, and then we're going to talk about the language that should be there around documentation requirements. And I offered, that we'll also involve them in reviewing the ordinance and making sure the appropriate language is in there for that perspective. So that's going to happen in August, and then I think it's something we're going to continue to communicate with them on.
Okay, yeah, I just, the audience people that have been coming aren't here this time, but I just kind of wanted to get it on the record that we're still progressing on this and what the progress is, and that it's still moving in the nature of transparency, because I know there was a lot of public feelings about this. So I want people to know we're on it.
Right.
Do you want me to keep sharing, or do you want to take over? You're on Patterson Forum.
We can, if you guys have I mean, we can go right to the National Register submission if there's.
That's what we're on. Yep.
All right, good. So just as an overview, our goal is to have the submission completed or submitted, if you would, by the end of the calendar year, so by December. Helen and Wendi Grant and I met back in May and looked at what needed to be done. And in a National Register submission, there's really kind of two main pieces. It's the architectural description, and then it's the statement of historical significance. So once you kind of get those two things done and approved, then the rest of it, you just fill around it. Wendi offered to help with the architectural descriptions. Now, fortunately, because of the master plan work that was done last year, Seiler and Drury already photographed, they already did drawings of this, they even did description. So what simply asked Wendi to do is to go through and make sure that the work that was done by them meets the requirements of the National Register submission. And there were some previous submissions that they had some questions on the architecture. We wanted to make sure they were also being addressed. Helen and Tom and I have been focused more on the statement of significance. And, Tom and I met this week. We talked about, in general, what we have to demonstrate is the output of the farm was significant in both either the township or at the county level, or even at the state level, but we're looking at the township or county level. And Tom and I kind of looked at what data was available and how we would go about doing that. So we have a plan. Tom's been helping out to crunch some of that data. One of the important things, because there are two different farms that are being put together in the historic district, is to demonstrate a relationship between the farms. And Helen has done that already. In fact, it was because of her talking about basically familiar relationships and how the workforces kind of commingled, that really allowed the SHPO to kind of say, you don't need to do two separate submissions, you can do one submission as a district. So she's going back in some of the narratives that have been written about that and kind of, pulling that language all together. So our goal, our milestone is in September to send a draft of the historical significance and architecture descriptions over to SHPO to get their feedback, and then based on that, finalize it in Q4. Helen, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I worked on the draft, and it's cleaned up some of we had also included the National Register District. You have to have it in there for descriptive purposes, but I've changed the original intent to reflect that it is adjacent to the farms rather than a part of the same submission. So that part's been cleaned up. I also have done a lot of work on the census data for free people of color, and have found some data on people who are actually working on the farm. So I'm going to include that in my already pretty complicated narrative. I didn't remember that I had done as much as I had. So it looks pretty good to me. And the descriptions of the buildings are in there, Joe. So I think we just clean it up a little bit and we should be ready to go. And by the end of September, at least a solid first draft.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad to get that out. I have to leave. So I'm just looking at the rest of the agenda, and I think the rest is kind of still on hold, most of the agenda. So I'm going to write that, and then I'll take this with me and write up the rest of the minutes. If there's any change or any additions, you will let me know.
We'll get them to you.
Okay, thank you.
Helen, I want you to know, I looked it up. The articles you were talking about, the 4 articles are for the Bucks County Herald. They're due September 2nd. I'll send this to everyone. 800 words.
Okay,
max.
I may have to trim mine then.
I had a feeling.
You think so? Yeah.
Some of your words, Helen.
But I'm not finding what we agreed on.
I
I
think
think
I've
they're in
got
the
double that.
June minutes, and I don't have the June minutes. So Joe, maybe you could look back. I can't find the
I
June
have the minutes,
minutes.
so I'll look back. And I know I was doing schools and overall So that part, I've done the school one, so I know that I can trim that easily.
Okay, I just want to know
Okay,
quickly what the
thank
other
you,
ones
guys.
are.
Okay,
Thank you.
they're probably in the May minutes, because we have.
Maybe that's
the
what it
minutes
is.
They've just been approved today, so I don't, I didn't. I
Oh, yeah,
read it.
you're right. So it would be May minutes. I can't
Yes, I'll
find.
look back at the May minutes and I'll send you. So Monica, you want me to send around the list of topics again?
And who we assign them to. Yes, please.
Yeah, because Joe, I was assigned something, and I think it was something vague, like historic families or something, and I just
Right.
need a little bit more to go with, and then I will get on it.
Right.
Thanks, Joe.
And I think, Kathy, when we did our thinking about the American Revolution, we wrote about some of the prominent families there. And I'm writing about, Slack. So, I mean, I think you could probably pick just one or two of those, because any research that you did, we could probably repurpose for the 2026.
Okay, so I'll use the list of names that was in that document you just sent us. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I think, so Chris isn't here. Do we have any new business? No?
I don't think so.
I did, with the status of historic properties, I wanted Suzanne to, no, come on. She said that there was something about Edgewood, so I think it's important for us to know.
Well, you'll remember what I said, right? So the board is expecting, the board has not seen yet, the board finds out things before other people find things out.
Okay.
Right, but we do expect to have the finalized plans on the point so that that work will begin shortly. Shortly being a euphemism for,
So I thought what I heard you say is what the
Well,
board might
you
be
know.
expecting is,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
You're not going to say anything else, okay.
There have been another set of plans that have been submitted for the Wright Farm, 1878, so I can forward an email on that if people want to look at them. I think, for us, the question really is what's going to happen with the house that's there, right? And we just need to look at the plans and see what they have in there.
I'm sorry, which property?
Number C, letter C, right, the Wright Farm.
It's on 332, across from where 295, the exit for Yardley Newtown. That farm was sold to developers, not to be confused with the farm on the other side of 332 and 295, which was also sold to developers.
Well, I think that's it. Joe, do you have anything else before we do a motion to adjourn?
I don't. I'll watch the first half of it and I'll get caught up that way. Again, apologies for being late. Mother Nature intervened.
All right, somebody make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're out.
Thank you, everyone.